Okay, so I'm just recording this. I don't know if I'm even going to release this, but one of the things that I was talking about is you have to watch the signs because it's a very tricky situation when you're in a predicament where it's 3:33 a.m. right now that I'm just going through this or explaining this. You got to check the temperature and you have to check your situation because here's the thing. I have noticed that if you are in any kind of relationship capacity, it don't have to be romantic, but the most common times you see this is romantic. Another relationship dynamic that you see this in is family. Now, the family one will shock you, but once you start going through certain things spiritually, a lot will stop shocking you. I promise you. But the two most, or and then the third one is also business relationships. Um, when I was a kid going to church, I do remember that there were certain word of faith speakers or teachers, certain word of faith teachers who would say, God can put so much favor and glory and blessing on your life that don't you know that the only reason why your job or your department in your job is still open is because of you? Because the favor that God has put on your life, that's the only reason why your department is open. That's the only reason why your department has not shut down. And I honestly believe that, like hearing that as a kid, and I still do believe it, but I honestly believe that as a little kid. You can have so much favor with God on your life that the only reason why things haven't happened in a catastrophic way or whatever is because of how God favors you or how God looks upon you. Well, imagine having that favor and being in a relationship dynamic like your family or with, your significant other, whether boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, or spouse. And imagine when you part or depart from that person, everything starts shutting down in their life. And I can speak from personal experience with a family situation when I departed from my family because I came into the knowledge that there were things that were being um acted upon spiritually that wasn't good for my spiritual, mental, emotional, or physical health. So for me, I had to depart from this situation because nobody wants to be around negative vibes. Even if somebody isn't saying anything negative, I'd rather for you to, tell me how you feel to my face, or at least show me how you feel outwardly, than to act as if you don't have nothing or you don't feel some type of way at all. And, only for that to, only for it to prove that you do feel some type of way. Okay. And so, alchemically, okay. So for me, when I departed, there was a shift energetically where I started feeling better. I started feeling more energetic. I started feeling more calm within myself, more rooted. I just started feeling better about me and about who I was. And I've been reading up some things that have been giving me major insight into some of the things that have gone on leading up to present day time. And those things are private, and I'm not going to really go into details and share them, but I will have to say this. If you are in a relationship with somebody and that relationship, once you depart, that person's life start deteriorating, that person was benefiting off of the positive energy that you had. And that's only applies if you are not doing anything to manipulate the events that are happening in that person's life. Because some of y'all is slick. Some of y'all know that the relationship, some of y'all know it ain't working. It ain't working. Some of y'all know that the relationship is not working. It's not really any bullshit. It's just a situation where it's like, look, we've served our time. And you walk away from the situation, but because you have, and we all do it. I've been bitter, you've been bitter, but the difference is, how do you act out on that? Some people act out on that by literally manipulating things in the previous situation. And so the person is looking like, why is my shit fucked up the minute this person walks away? It must be a sign. It must be that I need this person somehow in my life. Whole time that motherfucker is manipulating shit to make your shit fucked up. That's not a sign from God. That's a sign that's an indication that you need a cleansing. So let's start with the basics. If somebody walks out of your life, or if you walk out of somebody else's life, and all of a sudden everything around you starts taking a downward spiral, before you go running back and playing the whatever cat and mouse game, get your situation grounded, rooted, and shielded up. First things first, cleanse yourself. Cleanse yourself in the spirit, okay? That means you're going to have to cleanse yourself not only physically, but you also have to cleanse yourself spiritually. And how do you do that? You have to rid yourself of whatever it is that is a vice or a weakness for you for a certain amount of time. You can't just do, oh, I'm going to take 30 days. No, 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 no. Anytime something spiritual is aggressively transpiring in the physical, you need to set out at least 90 days, 2 to 3 months, 90 days. If you can, 6 months, but you need to set aside 90 days to yourself and dedicate those 90 days to resetting yourself through multiple cleansings, also through meditation, counseling from somebody outside of the situation who you will trust as a spiritual advisor. Definitely pause. I am not a certified physician, clinician. I am none of that. I need you to do me a favor and check with your doctor before undertaking any kind of regimen that would restrict calories or will restrict you on your current diet, especially if you take a medication. Do not take what I say as advice. It is only a mere podcast. You got to do your part by going and talking to your physician, your clinician, your doctor, your guru, whoever. But if you are in the United States or Canada, you got to talk to a certified clinician, a certified physician, somebody who went to school for 7 to 8 years and got their degree to be able to put on a white coat and tell you what the business is when it's coming to your health. That is not me, okay? So, 9:17 on the clock, bilateral feet, bilateral feet. I don't know about you, but I gotta eat. With that being said, go to your doctor before you undertake any kind of regimen that is going to directly affect your health, okay? I'm not liable for nothing. Now, with that being said, you start noticing this motherfucker done walked out of your life, or either you done walked out of this motherfucker's life. Either way, your money is funny. There's pictures that are falling off the wall. Your car just broke down. You stubbed your toe on the edge of the table. You got all the way down the steps, and on the last step, you fell and bust your ass. On the very last step. Your boss or your company or your situation, whatever it is, some of y'all are actual bosses that run companies. Your shit is kind of fucked up. And it's not even Monday, you know? You got bills out of the yin yang that you ain't never really, had to deal with before. People are being hostile towards you. That's a good one. You never really had a problem with people before, but all of a sudden you go to the pharmacy and somebody's face is all scrunched up. They looking at you sideways, and it's like you ain't never had no issue before. Um, you're irritable, or it seems like you just getting into fist fight, not fist fights, but you getting into, could be getting into fist fights. That's another thing. You got a lot of hostility in your life. Either you getting into fist fights with random people, or random people getting into fist fights with you, or you just arguing with random people that you ain't never argued with before, or maybe you just run into some rude ass strangers and you got road rage coming from the next car next to you, or you are displaying road rage. You gotta check what's going on in the spiritual first before you start jumping to conclusions that maybe this is the one. Bullshit. Figure out what's going on. Also, when we share our bodies with people sexually, and when we share blood with people through family, okay? When it comes down to it, some of these people be taking some of their energetic karma, meaning the shit that they did to fuck other people over with, and they be transferring onto your duck ass. And you be sitting there like a sitting duck, not knowing why the fuck shit is falling apart in your house, why the picture frames is all turned upside down, why the cross above your door post and turned upside down, why it feel like you got spirits floating out the corner of your eye, and you sitting down minding your business in your study, all of a sudden you just get a whiff of shit underneath your nose, like somebody literally stuck their finger up their dookie hole and put that shit underneath your nose. You don't know where it came from. Also, you just smelling shit. That's signs of a bad evil spirit. Evil spirits smell like sulfur and burning flesh. I know this because I've had that experience with before I've ever seen an actual bad spirit. I've always smelt it first, and it smells like somebody literally stuck their finger up their doo hole, took out a chunk of dookie, and put it underneath your nose with burning flesh. It smells like burning flesh, sulfur, and shit. That's what a bad spirit smells like, okay? So these are certain signs and symptoms that are practical, with the exception of the last, little tidbit, because it's not practical unless you live in a bigger city. If it's like summertime in NY, of course you're gonna walk outside and smell a big pile of shit. It's summertime in NY, But like, there's practical and then there's non-practical things that you can look at and be like, something is not right. But what I'm saying is, before you rule out, another thing is this: if you're having disturbances constantly in your sleep, if you're having disturbances constantly while you're awake, like the seeing of the shadows, phew, 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 going in and out of your house. Now, let me tell you something. I'm going to be upfront with you. I've had paranormal experiences my entire life. I've always had experiences with spirits my entire life. I, at a young age, had to learn how to use and exercise the authority and the power of the word and the blood of Jesus to be able to expel those things out of the house. And the only reason why it works is because I really do believe in what I'm saying. Okay? If you find yourself being afraid of certain things like that, and I've had some really I'm not gonna get into it, okay? But I've had some really, like, oh my God moments, okay? And what I will tell you is this: The first thing that I had to learn how to do so that I would be less afraid of some of the activity that used to go on in my life as a young kid. Um, and I didn't know this until I got older, but really building up of your base or root chakra helps you to be able to, withstand anything paranormal. It concretes you and concentrates you to the point where you're not really afraid of a lot of different things. I know that sounds crazy, but it's like it really does work. Like if you're building up your root chakra paired with if you're working with your lower base chakras, okay, Tribe Called Quest, but if you working with the lower base chakras and you really building up your energy center, if you're not liking the new age terms and you're like, girl, I don't do all that, bitch, if you get up and you go and you stretch your hips out, whatever, exercise you do, or if you like to just like whatever, if you're stretching your hips out, you would be flabbergasted. You would be flabbergasted by how much you could withstand and how much you actually build up of yourself in the spirit. You'll be able to see certain images without kind of being squeamish. You'll be able to pick up on certain senses and not be intimidated. You will actually start develop more dominance over the animals that are in your home. When I'm more working with certain energies like Archangel Michael, or if I'm more working with like my root or base chakras, when I'm doing all of that, I notice that my dog listens to me a lot better. Now, another thing about it is my dog, he's a huge energy grabber. So whenever my energy shifts, he is all over me like white on rice. And then I tend to attract a lot of cats too. So when there's a shift in my energy because I'm doing something different, I get cats coming from all over. That's weird, but it is what it is, just the life. But what I'm talking about is if you notice those things actually happening before you rule out, so you're having my baby, and that's it, forever my lady, it feels like a dream come true. Before we get into all that, you gotta check to see what is really going on, because it could be somebody manipulating these events happening in your life, especially if your money is draining left and right. That's a big one. Oh, Tokoloshe, if your money is being drained left and right, you gotta check that to see is somebody being vindictive and manipulating these situations in my life. Another thing, if you have a situation where in my circumstance I walked away or distanced myself from certain family members, and with that I started having opposition with my money, and I didn't necessarily correlate it to the distance that was being made between my family. um I didn't correlate. I don't know why this man been on my mind, but I hope he okay. um but I didn't correlate it. I didn't really think anything about it, but that's because I was still I was still kind of naive about what was happening. I was very naive about what was happening. Um 917. I was very naive about what was happening. But that's also a sign that something could be going on. Something could be wrong. Now, let me also say this too. Sometimes it's not you that's doing anything. Sometimes it's not you're having all of these events, these series of unfortunate events. Sometimes you're not having a series of unfortunate events because of what you've done, or because of what somebody else is doing. Sometimes it could be rare case, alternative, weird flex. It could be that somebody that you were connected to, like your family, in my case, they had done things that were against the law spiritually. They broke spiritual laws against other people. But instead of them getting or taking the brunt of the backlash, reaping what you sow or karma, they transferred that karma onto me. So certain things I was dealing with, which translated into hardships, even emotions. I had emotions of suicide. I had thoughts of suicide, emotions of suicide. I had depression. I had certain illnesses going on with my body. Where my menstrual cycle was going for longer than what it should have. I had times where I would just pass out. I had a lot of things going on with me. At that time, I did not know that there were spiritual repercussions that my family had that they were throwing onto me, so that they could evade any kind of responsibility or karma that they had done. You have to investigate every area, because a lot of the times people will try to convince you, I'm not doing anything, that's not me, this and this and that, da 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 da. And the truth is, it's not that they're doing anything. When you look into it spiritually, it's that they have spiritual repercussions, but because of the bond, the tie, the bind, whatever that you have or had with them, they have figured out a way to transfer that onto you. Okay? And that's something that you have to deal with as well. Now, before we wrap it up, the last part of this is definitely try to see if there is any resolution or any kind of conversation that can be had about what's going on in your situation. Sometimes some people are not too 20 to 22. Sometimes some people are not going to they not there's no talking to them. If somebody has been doing something from the beginning of the relationship, underhanded spiritually, or if somebody has been doing something from, maybe since you were a child, and they're an elder and they've been antagonizing you, you have to use discernment. At that point, there's no really conversation that can be had. This was a well thought out, methodical plan to get you before you get me, or get you before you come into the awareness that I'm doing this to you. And the best thing that you can do is separate, back away slowly and separate yourself out of that situation. But then you need to go within, and you need to implement a team or get a plan on how you're going to heal and reset yourself, because it is very hard when you've shared your body with someone sexually, or when you share blood with somebody. It is very hard to heal by yourself. Okay. And when you're in that position, you're human. There's mistakes that you have made. There's things that you've probably said and done that did not help your situation out. But you do not deserve abuse. Nobody deserves that. Spiritual abuse or physical abuse. In either arena or situation, you gotta get out of there. You gotta get out of that situation. So with that being said, if you suspect that that is something that's going on, or if you suspect that that is your situation, get an exit plan. Get an exit plan, and also get a plan for your healing, and get a support system. Stop thinking that you're so strong that you can do things all by yourself. We were made to have relationships as humans. And yes, it's harder for some other humans to have relationships than others, but we were made for relationships. That's what it's for. Bye for now.